I've heard is your explanation of Bitcoin as digital energy. Can you explain this concept and why it's important?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I think that when you look at the fundamental breakthroughs with Bitcoin, one of them is solving the double spend problem. And the second is solving the problem of how you transfer Bitcoin without a trusted intermediary, without a trusted third party. So oftentimes those things are used in context of an asset or a currency. But if you think more deeply about this, solving the double spend problem is the same as solving the problem of conservation of energy in the universe. If I take a block of a million pounds of gold and I transfer it to myself, to yourself, there's still only a million pounds of gold. And when you think about solving the problem of doing this without a trusted third party, that's the same as making it possible to transfer a bearer instrument or transfer anything in the universe. So if you don't solve the problem of a trusted third party, then you've just created a simulation. I'm transferring a million coupons from me to you, and we have a bank somewhere else or another file that's actually keeping the true representation relevant. So now let's think about that a bit. If I have an MP4 file, and I gave you an MP4 file, I've created digital information. It's actually a digital video. It's music and it's image. Now, if you take the MP4 file and you send it to your friend in Tokyo, and they actually have a computer, they can decode the file. And if they can plug that into electricity and then put that into a speaker, they can play the file, or they put it into a screen and they can view the file. So I have sent you digital entertainment. If I take away the electricity and the computer and the speaker, it's not digital music in Tokyo. But the file itself is a bearer instrument. If I were to send you just a hash or some kind of key to a central server with music on it, I haven't sent you digital music. I've sent you the rights to access somebody else's digital music. But when I encode the entire Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in an MP4 file, I have sent you digital music. Now that is digital information, right? It only exists in the context of the human race if there's electricity and there's computers and there's speakers in Tokyo. If you obliterate all the people in Japan, is it still digital music? Well, yeah, it's still a digital music file. And so once we start thinking about that, now the question is it digital energy? If I send you Beethoven's Fifth Symphony to your file in Tokyo, can you buy a building with it? And the answer is no. You cannot buy a building with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in an MP4 file. Why can't you? Well, because it's not conservative. Because there's a billion other people that also have the same MP4 file, or I could stamp out the MP4 file over and over and over again. And therefore, if I can just send you Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in an MP4 file, and you could buy a building, right? That violates the laws of physics and it blows up the universe, right? Pretty soon the cost of a building would go up by a factor of 1 million because everybody in Tokyo would want to buy the building with the MP4 file. And what do we call that? Inflation, right? Whenever you have something that's non-conservative in the universe, you get inflation. But the entire last 30 years of the internet is all about digital transformation of information, and digital maps and digital music and digital entertainment. These are all examples of non-conservative bearer instruments moving through cyberspace. What do you get? Well, you get an explosion of information, an explosion of entertainment, an explosion of education, all good things, but they're not energy because they're not conservative. What is the difference between that and a file that holds your private keys to $1 billion of Bitcoin? If I send you my private keys to $1 billion of Bitcoin, you can indeed buy an entire city block or a building in Tokyo, and I can't, right? So it was a transfer of energy from me to you. Now, some people say, well, it's not really energy because blah, 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 you can't turn it into electricity. But they missed the point. The point is I sent you the file with, first of all, would you want the file with the $1 billion of Bitcoin in it if I offered to send it to you? Presumably, right? So it's pretty clear it's different qualitatively than an MP4 file that plays Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. And so I send you that. Now, how do you turn it back into energy? Well, a lot of times people don't understand what energy is, right? Energy is electricity, or it's sound, or it's a block of granite, or it's metal, or it's glass. It's all matter. Everything in the universe is energy, right? And matter can be converted to energy. Energy can be converted into matter. Tesla said, if you want to understand the secret to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's not something we think about very deeply until you have to. But for the first time in the world of the internet, in the world of technology, in cyberspace, you have to start thinking about vibration and energy and frequency, right? That's the significance of Bitcoin. So I'm going to send that file to you in Tokyo. Now, how do you convert it into a building? Well, it's digital energy. You're going to convert it into political energy by running it through an exchange. You're going to sell the Bitcoin for yen. And political energy is just another fluid. It's another medium, in this case, the currency. And then I'm going to take the currency, I'm going to buy the building. And if I don't want the building, I'm going to buy a tanker with oil in it. Or if I don't want that, I'm going to actually pay 1 million people to work for me for an hour. Right? I'm going to convert it into work. I'm going to convert it into property. I'm going to convert it into matter. I'm going to convert it into any form of energy, into natural gas, whatever I want. And the exchange it's like a heat exchange. I take the digital energy, I make it political energy, then I make it matter, or I make it property, or I make it work. And you could say, well, if you take away the Bitcoin exchange, it's not energy anymore. But that's kind of like saying if you took away the speaker, is that a digital music file anymore? It's still a digital music file. Right. And of course, it's kind of ridiculous because if it's a digital music file with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony and you want to listen to it, you'll probably find yourself a speaker and a computer to run it through because you want what's in the file. You want to decode the file. And if I gave you $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in a file, you would probably travel somewhere in the world and find an exchange or a person. Even if there was no exchange, you would go find someone that owned a building and you would just swap them the Bitcoin for the building directly in a peer-to-peer transaction. So Bitcoin is digital energy because it is non-conservative and because it can get work done, just like energy can get work done. And also because it can be converted into matter or property. Now, let's think a little bit about, this concept of Bitcoin, right? The simplest metaphor is it's digital gold. Well, let's think about what is gold, what is property, what is money, what is capital, what is energy? Okay, well, gold is a property, and property is low frequency money. If I take $1 billion and I put it in a bunch of gold, it sits sometimes in the same vault for 30 years. Very low frequency. If I put it, it's kind of low maintenance, low frequency. If I put it into a building, it sits in the same place for 30 years. It's high maintenance, low frequency money. If I actually put it in currency, like the yen, it's mid frequency. It's mid frequency, money in this particular case. Now, currency is a way that money moves through a medium, and some currencies will hold the energy very well. A strong currency. Bitcoin is a strong currency if it's used as a currency, but maybe the US dollar is a stronger currency. The yen is a weaker currency. It's lost 14% of its value in the past few weeks. The peso is a weaker currency. The bolivar is a really weak currency. So you have weak currencies, you have strong currencies, and when we call them weak or strong, it's really kind of it's an articulation of the coefficient of energy loss, or the coefficient of the adiabatic lapse, the energy lapse in the fluid as the energy moves through it. And when you understand money like that, then you understand the currencies are just fluids through which money or monetary energy can flow. Money is economic energy. What is capital? Right? Capital is the concept of pure economic energy. So if I give you $1 billion of capital, right, and you want to hold it for 100 years, how do you maintain the capital? Well, if you put it in a weak currency, it goes away. You put it in a strong property, it actually accretes or holds its value. So what is Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin's digital gold, but it's also digital property. It's also digital money. It's also digital capital. It's also digital energy. Think in terms of frequency, right? That's what Tesla told us to think. Low frequency, it's property. High frequency, it's energy. Now, what's the difference between money and energy? And what's the difference between, well, money is monetary energy, right? Properly understood. When we use money and currency interchangeably, we're kind of sloppy and we need to get much tighter. Currency is political energy, right? It's a generally fiat currency. It's political energy. It's a medium to move the monetary energy through. But what we normally think of as money, we oftentimes, the only thing we remember is currency, like coins or fiat currency. So let's think a little bit about the difference between currency and energy. Currency is mid-frequency and discrete money, whereas digital energy, pure energy, could be high frequency and continuous, or it could be mid-frequency and discrete, or it could be low frequency and discrete, right? Energy is anything, right? The universe is composed of energy. And now here's where we get to what I think is the real big breakthrough. Once you get your head around the idea that Bitcoin is digital energy, and it could vibrate and oscillate at all frequencies, and it could be transformed. What is vibration? Vibration is converting your kinetic energy to potential energy, or converting one form of energy to another form of energy, right? Once you understand that, and then you think, we've got a way to put energy in cyberspace, now an entire world of possibilities open up. For example, if Bitcoin is digital energy, then I can create radiation in cyberspace. So for example, the sun shines upon you. What does that mean? And music to your ears. What does that mean? Music to your ears is acoustic energy flowing through the room to make you happy. But and you can harm somebody with acoustic energy. I can create a directed acoustic energy weapon and blow out your eardrums, right? Sun shining on your face. Is it bright sunshine, or is it mild sunshine, or are you in the dark? Well, if you want to kill the planet, you turn off the sun, right? So if I put sunshine on the planet, I light up the planet. It's energy, and eventually the energy could be converted by photosynthesis into life, right? So, and eventually you end up with things like coal, and you'll have oil, and you have everything that we live off of. Okay, so what is the equivalent of radiation in cyberspace? It's you come to my website and you have a Lightning wallet, and I have a Lightning source, or a Satoshi source. And every second you spend on my website, I send you 1 Satoshi. That's a very light sunshine. What if I sent you 100 Satoshis? Brighter sunshine. What if I sent you 1,000,000 Satoshis a second? Would you bask in the glow, right, of my radiation? Right? In that particular case, you're going to get very powerful. I mean, think about standing underneath 1,000,000 Satoshis a second. Now, here's the interesting thing. Like, if I told you I had a website where you could receive 1,000,000 Satoshis a second, would you show up? If I told you I pay you 1,000,000 Satoshis a second to listen to my mouth move, my lips move, would you listen? Very interesting, right? Now, if I want your attention, I shine the light, right, in cyberspace. No one ever thought to do that with currency, but the closest equivalent would be I shower money on your head, right? I drop coins on your head. I throw pennies at you. But it's not very practical to throw pennies at people, and at the end of the day, it doesn't work. It's very practical to actually radiate Satoshis at people. If we follow this a little bit further, now the question is, if radiation is sending my Satoshis in your direction, what's gravity, right? Can I actually create gravity, right? This is a very interesting thing. You have Satoshis, right? And you want to come into my orbit, right? And we can start to do an exchange where well, I guess here's an interesting observation. You have 20,000 Satoshis, and then every minute you lose 1 Satoshi. And when you get to 0, you get kicked out of cyberspace. You get kicked out of my web or my mobile app. That's like flying an airplane at 20,000 feet. And when an airplane's at 20,000 feet, it has more energy. It has potential energy. You can use that energy to speed up. When you run out of 20,000 feet, you crater into the dirt and you crash and burn. It's a problem. So what if I actually start to model your interchange through my cyber system by taking your potential energy or giving you kinetic energy in return for it? If you actually deposit 20,000 Satoshis with me, and I give you speed and velocity through my website. We come back to Twitter, right? You want to post a comment, you have to actually deposit 10,000 Satoshis to post a comment. You want to post 1,000,000 comments, you have to post 1,000,000 times 10,000 Satoshis. There's a cost for kinetic energy, and that is the potential energy. I'm actually vibrating, and I'm changing your energy situation. What is orbit, right? Like, what if I gave you 1,000,000 Satoshi loan, but you had to give it back to me in a year? Yeah, that's very, I can get you to orbit, right? A bank is an astronomical body. I can get you to orbit around my cyber body by exchanging Satoshis with you through a smart contract. And I can vibrate, and I can create all sorts of forms of energy. Like, one form of energy is the ability to send messages on Twitter. Another form of energy is the ability to talk to people on YouTube. You want to give me 100 million Satoshis, maybe I will give you the bandwidth of 10 million people on YouTube, right? I will exchange one form of energy for another form of energy, right? Maybe you can create a way to slingshot around my sun, right? And I can create competing ideas. Now,